Hey everybody, so today I am here to tell you guys all about my journey on becoming a breastfeeding specialist. I kind of wanted to walk you guys through my mindset, what I signed up for, give you all the details about my course specifically, and then at the end of the video I was going to give you guys like my advice in case you are going through my particular program, or if you're going to be, you plan on going through it. And I also wanted to answer your guys' questions because on my announcement video that I had got my certification, I asked for your guys' questions, so I wrote them down and I have them here. I have a whole sheet of paper about stuff. The first things I'm going to talk about are the details about my program, because that's what I'm really going to be talking more specifically to. There is a lot of different certifications in the lactation field, so I can only really speak to my certification and my program. So what I'm saying really only pertains to the course that I took and my certification. I don't have knowledge about other places and what they offer and what comes with their programs and stuff like that, but I do have a general idea of what's going on, so I'm going to do my best to give you guys that information. And then, like I said, I have some advice for you guys, and at the end I'm going to be answering your questions. So to get started, let's go over the details about my course. So first off, who offered my program and what was it called? It was offered by Lactation Education Resources, and the course was called Lactation Consultant Training Program Enriched. Now I will have a link below to the course that I took and their website. I will say it's a little tricky understanding and navigating their page. Just know that the title of my program, like I said, was Lactation Consultant Training Program Enriched. They do have two separate programs. I've mentioned this before. They have a 45-hour program and they have a 90-hour program. I took the 90-hour course. I'm not going to touch much on the other course, but I will say that it is cheaper, and you also get the breastfeeding specialist certification as long as you pass your exam at the end of that one as well. So as far as where that course technically was, it was completely online. So it's an online course that is offered to you. You have 12 months to complete it. At the end of that 12 months, if you're not done, you can pay an extension fee. I do believe it's $75. I'm not 100% on that though, because I didn't have to use that, but that's just what I've heard. I will say that it did take me 10 months to finish the course. I was only doing it at night after my kids went to sleep. I have work to do here on YouTube. I have a life. I have other things going on. I'm obviously also a stay-at-home mom. I wanted to diligently focus on spending quality time really soaking this information in, so I only allowed myself 3 to 4 hours every night to complete it. It says that the average for every student is between 6 to 9 months. I think if you have time during your day that you could dedicate a really long chunk to, that's definitely doable. But if you're like most women who have a lot of other things going on, I think that year time frame is definitely more than enough time for most people. But again, if it's not, you do have that option to pay for the extension. I'm not sure how long that extension is for, but I did want to mention that it did take me 10 months and I had a lot of other stuff going on, but I definitely felt like it was doable. As far as how much it costs $975, and there's also a textbook that you are required to get. I got mine off of Amazon for like a little over $100, so everything all together ended up being around $1,100 total. Now they do have certain programs where you can like pay as you go, and basically you pay for each chunk of the course that you take. If that's a better option for you, I believe it was like $200 or whatever. However, I just waited until we had the money saved to just pay for it as a lump sum, because I didn't want to risk running into the circumstance that we didn't have money to pay for the next part of the schooling or whatever it might be. So I felt like paying for it all up front was a little bit easier in our circumstance, but the pay-as-you-go kind of program is there for people who need it. I will get into more details about the exam specifically here in a second, but as far as when you pass that, what you get out of this course, you get the certification of a breastfeeding specialist. You get that certification for 5 years, and then after that you are expected to do some continuing education. And basically, from what I read on the website, it's alternating every 5 years. So at 5 years after I've had my certification, I will have to do continuing education. At 10 years, I'll only have to take the final exam. At 15 years, I'll have to do continuing education. 20 years, I take the exam, and it goes on and on and on like that. And as far as the continuing education, I just want to be upfront and honest. I did not look into that before I took this course, but I looked into it for you guys. I don't know if I can get my continuing education elsewhere, because like I said, there are a lot of other different certifications you can get. So this one is specific to this website. I'm pretty sure I'm probably going to have to go specifically through them, and it's another $900 for that continuing education. So in 5 years I'm gonna have to pay another $900. Me personally, I don't mind. I'm used to spending money on my other licenses and stuff, so I'm kind of used to having to pay for continuing education. But I did want to throw that out there because obviously it's a huge chunk of money, so I just want to be upfront and honest with you guys. And I'm not sure if there's any kind of fee to take that final exam when you hit 10 or 20 years. I don't know if that costs anything or if you're just given the final exam free of charge. I'm not really sure, but I just kind of wanted to go over the continuing education because I think a lot of people think about the schooling and what you get out of it, but a lot of people don't think that with most education these days, any kind of certification, license, stuff like that, you are required to keep doing continuing education, and that costs further money. This next part might sound a little strange to people who are a little unfamiliar with lactation professions, so I'm just going to pretty much spit it out and then I will backtrack and explain it for those of you who might know what I'm actually talking about. In addition to getting that certification with this specific course, it also does prep you with the education and the means to go and sit for your IBCLE exam, which if you pass that and you got the credentials and you got the clinic hours needed, you could also go on to be an IBCLC. A more explained version of what I just said is that you are going to be a certified breastfeeding specialist when you complete and pass this course, but it will also prep you to become an IBCLC if that's what you so choose to pursue. You do not have to, but it does give you the education that you need to do that. And about the exam itself, I can only speak to what I know now as of I'm recording this. Obviously, this course can change its rules and what it wants to do as far as the exam is concerned. However, when I took the exam, I had a time frame, which I'm not entirely sure. I think it was like an hour and a half to complete it, which I completed it in about an hour. And also you can retake it as many times as you need to get that 70% or higher, which made me feel really good. I wasn't sure if there would be a fee or if I would have to retake the course or like what it would mean if I failed it. However, you do have the option to just keep retaking it, which is a relief. Also, when you start the exam, just like every other part of the course, you are able to click off of it, go home, and start it at a different time in case something comes up. You can't go back and switch answers or anything, but you are able to pick it back up and your timer will start from where you left off. And I will say, when I took my exam, I would say 90% of my exam was clinical questions. So it is really important that you're taking your course in, because you aren't going to have textbook questions, therefore you can't have perfect answers. It is really like, what have you learned and how are you going to put this to practice, you know? So you really want to make sure that you're absorbing all this, because a majority of my test was clinical kind of questions. Okay, so I got up to leave to grab a couple things that I wanted to show you guys for this next part, because that's pretty much all the details about the course itself. If I missed anything, you have more specific questions, obviously you can leave them down in the comments. I'll do my best to answer them, but I did want to move on to this. As far as my advice, I would say that you need to make sure that you're really paying attention, really taking this in, and you also want to take a ton of notes and be organized. With this course being entirely online, there's nobody there to hold your hand and make sure that you're doing everything that you're supposed to be doing. You have to be accountable for what you're doing entirely, so I just highly recommend from the get-go that you take it really seriously, that you're really doing everything you can to just making sure that you're soaking all of this information in. It's a ton of information. Obviously, you're not going to retain it all. You know, when I was studying for my exam, I was like, there's no way. I don't even remember this. You know what I'm saying? So there is a lot, but as long as you're taking it in, it'll come back to you. But like I said, with it being all online, it's easy to just kind of like brush things off, but you do want to make sure that you're really holding yourself to a good standard. Make sure that you're taking those notes, you're being organized. Now, basically the course is like a huge PowerPoint slide. They have different educators and different topics, and there's 47, I believe. I want to say there's more. I can't really remember. There were so many, but they have different sections, and each one's like a different PowerPoint for a different topic. And like I said, there are different educators, and you can print those out. It has a little resources tab up in the right hand side of the presentation, and you can print those slides out. However, I felt like the educators said a lot more than what was on their slides. So for me, it was really important to listen to them and to jot down stuff that wasn't just on the slides, because if you just printed those off and you looked at them later, I bet a lot of this stuff wouldn't make sense, and also you would be missing a lot of things. So I'm a huge note taker. I was in high school, I was in cosmetology school. I like doing that. I feel like it's one of the best ways that I learn. In that resources tab, you will also see that there's reading that's involved with that textbook that I said is required. I really slacked on that, and one of my biggest pieces of advice is to not. I felt like when it came time for my exam, I had slacked on reading a lot of what I should have. Therefore, I had to go backtrack and basically read a lot more than what I, would have had to do if I had just kept up with it. So definitely look for that and make sure that you're reading in the book and you're keeping up with that. They were both saying basically the same stuff. However, I felt like the textbook was definitely more textbook, scientific, factual information that might be a little harder to learn if you are someone who's not in the medical field. However, the presentation was a lot easier to follow. For someone like me, I have absolutely no profession or education in the medical field before this, so a lot of it was kind of a learning curve for me and understanding what they're talking about. And that was another recommendation that I do have, is that you take the, I think it's like a medical terminology kind of course that they offer now. I heard it's about like $60 or $70. I would pay that hands down. It was, like I said, a huge learning curve for me. I spent a majority of the time in the beginning looking up terms that I didn't understand. They just weren't in my vocabulary, so I didn't know them. However, if you do have a medical profession, I think you'd probably be just fine. And I just wanted to show you guys, I went out and I think this is like a 2-inch binder. I got this right after I signed up for my courses, and I have dividers, and these are like all my notes. So in this front flap, I have different printouts. Like I think this is the TSA. This is United States security stuff for airlines and stuff when it comes to breast milk. I have different code of conducts and different assessments and like troubleshooting papers and questionnaires and things, just a lot of the different handouts that are available to print off per section. And then right here, these are just literally all my notes. And then after every chapter, I would go through and I would highlight what I felt like was super important. So that way, when it came time for my final exam, I could just go through, I could read the highlighted bits. I know, bear with me, the lighting's getting a little crazy, it's mad at me. But yeah, this whole binder is just filled with my entire education worth of notes, and I really, really do recommend this. I like that it's all in one spot. If I have a friend who needs help, if I just need to look something up because I don't remember, it's all organized. It's in a place that I can go and I can look, and I know that I'll be able to understand it because of my super thorough note taking. It's just really a relief that it's all in one spot. And then I also wanted to show you guys my textbook. This is probably a little overkill. You definitely don't need to do this. You could probably also highlight things, that'd be a lot easier. However, this is what I do with most of my textbooks, whether it's lactation or cosmetology or anything really. But this is what I like to do. I like to get a couple different colors of post-it notes. I will dedicate one to chapters, so I can look, and all these pink ones are different chapters. So if I'm looking for a general topic, I'll flip to that. And then the blue ones and also the green ones back here were like specific topics within that general subject. So I can really just kind of flip through here and look for what I'm needing. And yeah, I went through this whole book and that's exactly what I did. And it sounds tedious, but again, I like knowing that when I need something, I can find it, and I'm not just flipping through this book like crazy, because it is a huge book. And I will say that it was well worth its money. I like having a nice textbook resource with any kind of education. I just really like that. Obviously it's required, so it's not like you can't not get it, but I did want to go on record for saying I do like the book. I did like the course. And for those of you who didn't watch my announcement video of me getting my certification, this is kind of what it looks like when they send it to you. It's a PDF file and you can print it off. This was just like a little printer paper that I printed off to show Mark, but this is what it will come out looking. It'll have your full name, it'll give all your different credentials, and I like really want to get like a nice piece of cardstock and frame that and like But I did want to show you just everything that I have for my courses, and they're all put aside and organized and stuff, and how I basically got through it all, and give you guys some advice in case you are going to pursue it or you're in it, because that was my general experience with it. Okay, so now that I cleared up those two chunks of information, I am now going to go on to your guys' questions, which I'm most excited about because you guys do ask the best questions. So the first, and I think the most asked question, was what are my career plans now? And I think this kind of tied into why I chose to do this course. And I'm sure some people will like this answer and some people won't, but I did this course entirely for myself. I don't have any plans on doing anything specific with it. I do not plan to become an IBCLC. I do not want to pursue that. I don't have any plans to go into private practice or to work for a certain facility or anything really at all. I got this strictly because I wanted the education. I have breastfed both my daughters through exclusively pumping for quite some time combined. I knew that I wanted something to signify like that huge monumental portion of my life, and breastfeeding has really created its own space in my heart, so I really did want to have something to symbolize that. And I went back and forth for a really long time over like what that would be for me, and I settled with this lactation course. It was something that I wanted to pursue. I love education, I love learning, so what better than to take a lactation course and learn more about something that I became passionate in. And I didn't do it because I wanted a different job. I didn't do it because I wanted to make money, or to, not to say that any of these things are wrong. I'm just saying for me personally, I took the course because I wanted to take the course. I just wanted more information. I wanted to understand it better. And if I could help other people along the way with what I know, then so be it, you know? So, I mean, I have helped people like my niece, and I've helped friends, and hopefully in the years to come, I can help other family members, maybe even my own daughters if they do breastfeed and stuff like that. However, I don't foresee me ever doing anything professionally with it. And there was also a small portion of me that also wanted to do it because I wanted to make sure that I was always giving you guys the most factual and helpful information when it comes to breastfeeding. When I make breastfeeding videos, I don't take them lightly. I do a ton of research. I make sure I have my facts straight. I make sure that I'm coming on here and I'm giving you guys actual information that's going to help you, because I just feel like that's beneficial. There's too much misinformation out there about breastfeeding. I don't want to add to that. So there was a portion of me that was excited that I would be able to rely on myself, my education, my textbook, my notes. I would have things to fall back on to make sure that I could keep giving you guys the quality content that I could, and that I could help the occasional mom, if so be it, if she comes to me and she just wants some advice. But, you know, I don't think that I would ever seek it out as a profession. I kind of like it as just like a hobby. I also wanted to say that I have my dream career right now. I am a stay-at-home mom who's able to focus on my children and my family while also working at my own leisure. And even though Google might pay me every month, I do work for myself. I make my own hours. If I need to skip a day because my kids are sick, no, like I don't have to report to anybody. You know, it all falls back on myself. So for me, this really is my dream job. I love doing this. I love where my life is when it comes to my career and what I'm doing right now, because I am able to have a job and also be a mom, stay at home, focus on my family, and I don't feel like I need to give up either or. I feel like I just have a really good balance, and I'm obviously very, very happy with where I am. So I'm not looking to change anything either. That kind of ties me into, will I use this to make income? I guess you could say partially, just because like I said, I am going to use this education to further make quality content on YouTube, which I do get paid for because you guys are so awesome and you support my channel. However, at the same time, like I said, I don't plan on being in like a private practice or getting a specific job in this area. So no, I'm not going to be paid as a lactation professional or anything like that, but I am going to use my education to further my channel. The third question is, how did I decide on this program? And that was because I researched quite a bit. I did find a couple of local programs within my area and I compared them with this one. And also I had a friend, Josi Wolfenbarger, which has an excellent website and an excellent Facebook group, which I will link down below. And between all of that, that's what made me decide on this. It basically offered the most education that I could find, at least that was available to me. There were some lactation courses, however, they required me to either travel several hours while I was still breastfeeding Remy when I enrolled, and then also they were like several days long, which would require a hotel stay and everything else, and everything would have added up to the same amount as this course if I had just done it online in the leisure of my own home when I wanted to, and I would still get just as much, if not more, education. So it kind of was just the best fit for me. That kind of ties me in with the next question, which was, what is a breastfeeding specialist exactly? What's the difference between it and other credentials? And basically, like I said, there's a lot of different ones out there. It basically comes down to who gives you your education and what was covered in it. And because of those factors, and because there's so many different versions of that, I don't think anybody really understands the differences between different titles. However, with that, I will say that an IBCLC is the highest credential you can have as a lactation professional. So that's just basically the understanding in the lactation world, is that an IBCLC is the highest ranking you can go, and everything under that is, you know, what it is. It just really depends on where you take your education at. And that kind of leads me to the next question, which is about if there was any kind of prerequisites or any kind of credentials that I needed beforehand to complete this course. And no, I have absolutely no medical training, any kind of education, nothing, absolutely none. So you don't need anything to get this course and complete it. However, that is different if you are going to pursue an IBCLC, which I'll talk about here in a second. But I think a lot of reasons why people get confused on that is because you do see a lot of people in the medical professions be lactation consultants or IBCLCs or whatever their title might be, and that's because they are in the medical profession. It just kind of goes hand in hand, especially if they are dealing with postpartum moms or even expecting moms. So it just kind of goes hand in hand with their profession already. However, it's not exclusive. You don't have to be a medical professional to do this course. I will say that that is different if you are looking to become an IBCLC. There is a lot of comments that I got saying that they saw that you need certain kind of credits and college education for different certifications, and that's to do with an IBCLC. There are different credits that are required, and there are clinical hours as well to be able to sit for your IBCLE exam along with education. However, there are different ways to go about that. You also don't have to be a medical professional to be an IBCLC. There are different, what they call pathways. I believe there's 3. I'm not going to sit here and explain them because I cannot do that the best. I'm not 100% on that, but I do know that it's possible. However, it might be far more difficult than if you were a medical professional. Obviously, clinical hours and college credits, stuff like that would be easier if you were already a medical professional. It's just going to be easier to come by. However, I'm not going to sit here and say it's impossible, because I have seen people do it and they're not medical professionals. So if it's really in your heart and it's what you want to do, trust me, there are ways for you to get there. Next to last question is this a license or a certification? And it's a certification. It's a little bit different than a license. I mean, I have both now, but this is a certification. And then the last question is, would I recommend it? And I would. Like I said, I did have a bit of a learning curve in the beginning because I do not have a medical background. However, I found it was pretty easy once I got familiar with the terminology, and I really enjoyed it. Like I said, I did this to learn more about breastfeeding, and it definitely did that for me. I felt really confident, especially after taking the exam and seeing that I did get a lot of the clinical questions right. And I don't know, it's really fulfilled me. I'm really proud of myself that I accomplished it, and it was something that I really wanted to do, and I did it. So I would recommend the course hands down. I do know that it's expensive. However, I always look at education as an investment. So to me, it makes sense at least. But if you are looking for some kind of course to become a breastfeeding specialist, I hands down recommend it. I will, like I said, put links down below for you to find them. I don't get anything from those links. I'm just trying to point you in the direction of where I took my course from. If you do start this course, or if you're in the middle of it, good luck. You'll do amazing, and let me know if you complete it and if you got your certification. If I missed any of your questions, leave them down below. I'll answer them in the comments, but I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and as always, thanks for watching.